excited we are to have Mr. Perjovschi with us here, and how it was this very serendipitous thing that he happened to be in New York this weekend, and we happened to...
And have a day off.
So we like that the planets aligned in this, I guess, fortunate way. And we're very excited to hear him talk, I guess, in a way about roots and about adopting new soils and learning how to be okay with growing new branches, both as an artist and both dealing with that through art. So thank you so much.
Well, it will be a lot of images, don't worry. So long and painful, but with a lot of images. So I'd like to start with this slide showing work of Constantin Brancusi, who is the only one visual artist who penetrate the local into global, like these two figures kissing. So he's the one of the artists who could extraordinarily melange the source where he was living or he was born in with the international influence. So let's start. And that's me. I've been born in Transylvania, in Dracula land. So if you are like a global vampire, you need a little more teeth to suck more blood, right? Well, this is what I do as an artist. It looks very simple. Why it's not? So I try to do this very limited means, very simple images, trying to depict very complicated stories. Like, you know, if you hold the microphone, you hold the power. That's what's happening now in the world. That's about your country. So it's like, can you ever understand? Can you pick there? Can you get it? And that's about my, you know, all the representation of national pride are made in China. Good, so this is the chart of today. Everything is bad but China. So if you have the growth, you're okay. The rest doesn't matter. Right? While you have the economic growth, you're okay. I disagree, this is like an ironic commentary. I hope you realize. Yeah, well, it's all about freedom, but it's depending how you define freedom and how you define rules and how you define obeying or disobeying the rules. Well, this is the economy we live. The broken jeans are more expensive. Kind of interesting, no? And this is also happening to you all. So we are taped and recorded, and we are okay with that. Yeah, so we have a guardian angel on top of us, right? At any given moment, any people who is described as a bad guy can be eliminated. So, the story of our life, you have like a goal. You go to find your goal, and then 3 hours later, good. So, I do these drawings on the walls, on the ceilings, on the windows, above the ground, on the ground, underground. And my art installation looks like that at the beginning. It's always like an empty space or wall or territory. And then this territory is gradually filled with commentaries. So it took me weeks or days or hours, depending the length of the time I have at the disposal. And the commentary comes from media, classic newspaper, whatever. Now more with blogs and Facebook and stuff. And from talking with people like you, or simply observing what's going on the street or around the exhibition or in that city. So it's just like an accumulation of thoughts and representation of situations. So I always say I'm not more like time-specific than site-specific, because I draw of the moment I'm building the exhibition. And it's always this kind of relation with the public and a certain, it's like a graphic novel somehow. And then sometimes, because this is the Ludwig Museum in Cologne, in Germany, and this was a special room with a balcony, so you cannot isolate that. So I had to draw on view. I had to perform while building the exhibition. So sometimes few people looking, and sometimes a little bit, And you feel the gaze when you draw, and your drawing is supposed to be funny, and if they don't laugh. Well, and in some cases I try to somehow break this relation between viewer and me, the builder of the exhibition, and have some kind of intermediary space where we can communicate. This is, in this case, I just let all the newspaper I use as a source on the tables, so people can also flip. And it was also a place where I can interact a little bit with the viewers. I don't like this very much because they push you out of focus. But in another sense, it's always interesting how people comment. For me, what I do, my drawings are very, very clear, but not for everybody, because there is like a cultural reception. People recognize them. It's like you knew what I'm saying, but we didn't see it yet. That's the rule, kind of. Okay. So I do white spaces, impeccable, like here in Macro Museum of Contemporary Art in Rome, or like brutal, like black spaces. This is somewhere in a former postal office building in Lille, in France. Or media spaces. Sometimes I'm just putting newspaper on, so the news are already here. I'm just illustrating some of the article, just pop-up images. It's kind of, this is the closest I get to the painting, because I was instructed as an academic painter. I will show you later. So I'm playing with this. The source of my drawings are sometimes let on view. So you can also read the same article and make yourself another picture maybe. Anyway, sometimes I have these spaces. This is like a unique case. It's a retrospective of my drawings. For each year of my career, this is CCC in Tours in France. For each year I have like a panel, a glass panel, and I redraw drawings of that year on that panel. So you can have a retrospective exhibition like that. It looks like a glasnost, like a transparent, like a 3D drawing, The fact that I'm redrawing a lot of drawings, so I keep them on. What I draw on the walls usually is erasing, no? So I keep redrawing, and sometimes I forget when I made them first, because they keep reappearing. I change a little bit, maybe some. In 5 years' time, the text a bit, whatever. It's like a matter I'm still working with. So I draw white walls. This is Centre Pompidou in Paris. Black walls, Lyon Biennale. White, black, and gray walls. This is Total Museum of Contemporary Art in Seoul, in Korea. So I draw inside the museum. This is Kiasma in Helsinki. This is Spencer Museum in Kansas University, and she's the director. See this guy? Well, I'm telling you, this is fantastic. They give me this possibility. Incredible. So, inside the museum, also outside the museum. This is the National Gallery of New South Wales in Sydney, Australia. So when they built this museum with this Western concept of art, they were supposed to do this metal buzzer area, but they ran out of money. So there were a lot of empty spots. And here I am with the chalk. completing the Western philosophy and art history. Well, I'm, as I told you, like a 12-year academic painter, 12 year of instruction from the age 10, the General School of Art, High School of Art, Art Academy. I made million still lifes. I paint the nature as they taught me how to paint. And now I do what I show you. So the question is why? And this is somehow of an answer. This is an aerial image of Europe somewhere in the mid-80s. And the black spot near the Black Sea. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the place where they taught me to tell the truth. So, the truth came after a series of dictatorship. Romania came from a fascist dictatorship to a communist one. This is not an easy country, and this was not an easy time. So I was supposed to say the truth, but you cannot say it at the time. This was the official image. I was living in your utopia, in the best society on the planet, the golden age. Right? This was the reality, but I never could paint it out. I was not allowed. Right? So I've been taught to say the truth, but not able to. This was a great lesson, absolutely great lesson. So what you do as an artist, how you manage, what are you there for, right? So I try to find some spaces of freedom. My wife was at the time doing some performances in our own flat. So it's in our intimate space where, let's say, censorship did not apply. Maybe microphones, but censorship not. And I found some territory outside the city. So this is a performance. I even didn't know at the time that it's called performance or action or whatever. So this was more like a poetical idea to be reborn, but out of the tree. So using something opposite to the technology they taught me to do, using the body. Body was important because at the time, body was totally controlled by the Communist Party, you know. I mean, they tell you how many kids you have to have, where you go to work, everything. How you have to behave, how you have to clothe, right? Good. This is the hero. He got to the Time magazine cover. I think he's the only one. Maybe Nadia Comaneci later. So the hero who got to meet good guys and bad guys too, right? Queen of England, Richard Nixon, that's Bucharest. Gaddafi, the other guy. So Mr. Hero of Romania, he is the only dictator in Eastern countries who got shot. The rest died in peace. Like dictator do, like Pinochet in London asylum. Destroying a country, you get an asylum somewhere else, right? Good. These guys changed the history. These guys. In spite of any conspiracy theory and every theory you heard about Romanian Revolution, the feeling was real. Like you, as a human being, you can be part of a changing of a history. It was fantastic. Well, it didn't end up there. Well, if you have a bad guy in front, it's easy. Look at Egypt, right? And you pull the bad guy down, and then what's happening then? So then your notion of future start to separate. How you go further becomes a new possibility of conflict. So I got about 2 weeks of eternal friendship with my own people, like you can kiss on the street. So, yeah, we won. You can kiss everybody. And then in about a month, you're separated again. So the story is not that somebody's bitten by a different thinking of the future. The story is here is why she is laughing about. How could we, who be together 3 weeks ago, now we laugh of somebody else's misery? Good. So, painting was not enough as a technique for me or as a strategy how to answer to these major changes. So I was in a jail, I got the freedom, then the freedom came with a price. So I could not answer through painting. Painting is slow, you have to have a technology, you have to have an order, you have to respect some steps. You cannot be, very elastic about it. So I try to use the body. My generation of artists, I'm born in 1961. It's the same year they erect the Berlin Wall. I'm still standing. So we become very aware about the power of the body, because that was the body of humans who changed history. And then the body is cheap as an art material. We've been super poor. So the body become the material to work with, to make some kind of different type of art than the usual, sculpture, painting, graphic, blah, blah, blah. So I started to do performance art without knowing exactly that this is a stuff which in the west part of Europe and the world have a history. Anyways, the performance I did were not theatrical. I was trying to do political performance, because that was the thing. And one of my probably most known is this one, 1993, after the mining, after all these years of battle, how democracy should be, every millimeter of advance was conquered on the street, fighting with it. So I was both in awe about Romanian people, then hating that, and then admiring, and then hating it back, and stuff like that. So I let myself being tattooed. This is 1993, tattoo was not popular. This jailer, sailor, the outcast, they were having tattoos. So I tattoo the name of my country on my shoulder. So, and I become like a cattle, owned, because I was owned by. I went in the West making exhibition, and they asked me about some stupid stuff the politician in my country did that. I said, what? Ask me about my art. No, your art boring. What's happening there? So, yes. Well, and in the same time, you can imagine, I was 28 years old when Romania opened. I never caught in my life any kind of liberal moment, because communism was not a flat, brutal. It was a very, with years of more liberal attitude, with years of more, time. Some of the artists older than me caught early 70s, they could go around. When I was established as an artist, Romania was closed, like a jail. I could not go nowhere. So I was 28 years old when we could travel, me and my wife. So my academic instruction in contemporary art stopped somewhere before Picasso. I had no idea that. So we went also, the art of the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s hit us at once. I have no idea, exhibition, biennial, conceptualist, John Cage. Nothing, we knew nothing. So this came like, BAM! And we become like bulimics. We try to get any information possible, spend all the money on catalogs, going around to see shows. But you get all this and you get all this, and then you are full. you want to throw. So I'm showing you two strategies how to do. One is made by my wife, and then I'm showing you mine. So she collect all this and put them in files. We didn't have money for the catalog, but we asked somebody to Xerox us a copy or something. So then this was like a museum of contemporary art in files. We could not have the real stuff. We have the image of the work, right? And then this material she collects, like original or postcards, invitation cards, multiples. You may have in contemporary exhibition sometimes like a pile of posters, you can take one. So this kind of material, and then some kind of artifacts she recreate based on some iconic artworks. So that constitutes an archive of contemporary art. And then she was editing back, because we didn't learn in school. I bet you don't learn either. You don't have like a shortcut in contemporary art, like somebody explain you the concept, then how performance evaluated from 50s, the group guitar, to our days. Images and little text, we don't have time. We read images, little text, quick. And then about photo and video department, media, and about theory of contemporary art. So she edited newspapers, simple and free distributed. And then at the end, like this is a piece of art of her, like her own cut in the art history. Because why art historians have to have the monopoly? Why we should believe them? My subjective art history, every history is subjective. My wife is dealing with timelines and temporals. If you take the information in England, there will be British scientists. If you take it in France, there will be French scientists. And it's the same history. So that's a cut, visual cut of how art transformed. And it's an amazing journey. It's fantastic. Right. So we had a studio in the middle of Bucharest, and we used this studio as a platform to debate. You know, this is a lesson from communism. You may have a book or a tape, videotape, but if it's just you to have it, you can't talk about it. So you have to lend it to somebody else, and then you can talk. So we got all this information, we create this platform, and then we start to talk about. We got lucky to go around, see exhibition, we can film, we can come back, show to these people. Talk about, confront, lots. Body is cheap, talking is cheap either. You just need a cup of coffee, right? Good. And then at a certain moment, after 20 years of activity, if you establish an independent platform, it doesn't matter where, in economics, in politics, or in art, after a while, you become a trouble. You're a troublemaker. You are not in the system. You have your own subjectivity. So they try to cut it out. So we lost the studio in the middle of Bucharest, 20 years after. We had to pack this history and practice, and we moved it to our hometown, which is Sibiu in Transylvania. So we moved from the capital city to Sibiu, but because was cheaper prices, more trustworthy working teams, family there, they can keep an eye. So we built an archive, which is a multifunctional space now in our hometown. What you see here is like 23 years of career. And it looks like that. It's a multifunctional, so it's a house, it's a studio, it's a deposit, and it's also an archive of contemporary art place where people can come. These are a group of architects. We had a chat and a discussion, so that's how it looks. And we don't have kids, so our plan is this will stay with the city of Sibiu as a resource center for contemporary art. And if I'm lucky enough and I can secure some money, we can leave behind like a fund to secure a position of researcher. That's our dream. That's what we do. Good. That was Leah. Leah's I'm more egoistic. I'm a man. So I answered to that with an artwork. I try to respond to the complexity of the art scene in general and the world in general with the same complexity in the artwork. So I made a wall of 5,000 drawings you're supposed to flip through, like this. And this is 1992, and in 1992 I did my masterpiece. I got successful. It was fantastic. I could make a name. Well, I was living in Romania, This, in order to be shown to you here, have to be transported. Somebody have to pay crates. Somebody else have to pay the transport, and somebody else have to pay the insurance. I did not have this. There was no institution there to do that for me, and there was no institution here to consider me so important to spend this money. So I did my masterpiece, but I got stuck with it at home. And in my definition of art, art is international, art is traveling. We are on an open planet. I could not make it with, being famous at home. So this is what I did. This here will be 2 slides, but it took me like 10 years to have from here to direct on the wall. Right? I lost the masterpiece on the way. This is about, physics, hunger, and metaphysics. So, I'm free to draw walls. And in 20 years mainly 10 years of practice of it, I got to the biggest wall of the biggest art museum on the planet, Museum of Modern Art, New York. Yeah, it took me 3 weeks to draw it. So, I was free. I'm free to go someplace or anywhere on this planet with 3 markers or a box of chalk, and I will invent the show on the spot. And they invite me and they don't know what I will draw. I don't know. So it's a matter of trust and responsibility. So I thought I made the drawing. This is the first project ever did in the atrium of MoMA in New York. Since me, they used this as an exhibition space. I was the first. They tested with me. And it worked well. I'm a free man. I go all over the planet and I do this, right? Okay. But the freedom have a price. So this is the show. This is the price for the freedom. At the end of the demonstration, they have to paint it out. Or in the case of this show in Spain, to destroy it. So I have a temporary appearance. I'm painted over, washed, and in some cases even, how it's called this? Is there a verb in English? Well, these are some artists from Sofia, Bulgaria. They were very inventive how they eliminate me from the gallery, their gallery. This is a very smart guy, Ivan Mudu. He did this, collect the dust, the powder, and sell it with $5. And I said, Ivan, send me one. I can't, it looks like cocaine. He got arrested, so anyway, that's like a joke. Well, I had to live with that. I'm free, I can do my demonstration, but I had to go. So I had to deal with this temporarity, who allows me the total freedom, because the drawing will not stay there forever, so somebody can come and say, hey, look what Mr. Perjovschi taught in 2001, right? So I had to incorporate these transitory moments in my art. This is Romanian Pavilion in the Venice Biennale. This is the largest exhibition on the planet. Actually, the Romanian state didn't provide the budget in time, so I was forced to go there to do something. So this is one of my first architectural, drawing on architecture. They didn't get the money to produce the works I wanted. So I said, I have to go and do something. And I went and I drew on the floor. This is a 6 months long exhibition in Venice. There are 500,000 people saw it, seeing it. So they step on the drawing to see the drawing. And after 6 months, my friends, it's called destruction in art. Sometimes destruction is very, very interesting. It's very creative. Well. Then, in 2007, in the same Venice Biennale, but this time in the International Pavilion, so I was selected among the rest. They give me this corridor, the entrance for the big international demonstration. Shitty space, but I say, all right. And I made drawings with charcoal, and I did not fix it. And the opening of this exhibition, the preview, 3 days or 5 days preview, like 3,000 specialists from the art field comes. Everybody who's somebody, like all the art directors of museums, all the critics, whatever. Everybody's coming to see the art. So they came. And at the human size level, well, art is very fragile. Maybe even the act of seeing it is destroying it. Because you apply your thoughts on my drawing. You're manipulating me. You're transforming me in the way you want. Right? And you don't have any responsibility. I have. Right? Good. So let's see the other way around. This is Tate Liverpool, like a blackboard. You don't have any longer blackboard in school, but that was it. You have? Good. So, and we let chalks for people. So they draw. You know, you are in a museum and you can attack the walls. Fantastic. So they draw. They really draw. Yeah. And this is a show I made in a gallery in Paris. So this is the day of the opening, and then every day of the exhibition I paint out some drawings. So if you come in the last week of the show, you see the space. And this is because the question is, okay, you draw, whatever, they paint it over, and then what? How you make a living? So I make a living out of my art, and I had to be much more inventive if I'm temporary. So this is a show in the Gregor Podnar Gallery in Berlin. I made the drawings, but on linoleum. So if you like a drawing, the galleries will come with a cutter and sell it to you. So this appearance, the sign of success. Well, this practice of drawing and erasing and disappearing and redrawing and this is a part, like 70% of my art. But then on the side is I'm 25 years already in a career, all over the places. So then solutions and situation appear, which I never thought about them, right? So I will show you some other project. This is Moderna Museet in Stockholm. They have about 180 lockers to put your bags. So I put drawings in it, and if you put €2, you have the show. Your private show. This is a show I made in Kosovo, in Peja. That's a non-existing republic, or existing republic but non-recognized by everybody. I could not go there. It's a very difficult access. So they installed a fax machine for me, and I send them the drawing to them. And they invite the Romanian peacekeepers at the opening, right? So look, I'm educating the military. This is a show, the last one I did in Lombard Free Project is the gallery who represent me in New York. And before the election here, I draw on the last 100 covers of New York Times until the date of the American election, second term of Obama. So this was the show. And in a sense, because I feel free in institution. I draw the walls, they paint it, I go. In a gallery is a commercial space. Every square inch, it's a commercial space. So I have to provide something they can sell. I did drawings on newspaper. Well, with the selling, it's a bit more complicated, right? And in a way, I was forced to imagine an exhibition, right, with objects. So in a way, it's a classical show. But luckily, because I was always lucky and fortunate in my life, so this kind of more or less classical show of mine, Sandy came. Sandy, the storm. So galleries in Chelsea got flooded, destroyed, brutally, see? They had to break the walls because the water came in, right? So then suddenly my show became radical. And the fracture line is here, right? We showed the destruction. The limit between the culture and nature. Right? Well, if the computer will adjust, I will, yeah. After the collapse of the communism, I was academically trained as a painter, as I told you. And everything what was happening in the galleries at that moment was really boring in Romania, really boring. Art cannot cope with events so quick. But the media could. So in the first year after the collapse of communism, after the collapse of censorship, it was a frenzy and a boom of the printed word. It was fantastic. Every week, a new newspaper or something. People bought like piles. They went home and read it. So that was the most interesting platform you can imagine. So I went in one of these journals, one of the first independent weekly magazine in my country. The name is 22. That's the name of the Romanian Revolution, 22 of December, 1989. So this is it is printed by a think tank of intellectuals. So it was the first independent and maybe the last. No, every media is controlled by somebody, right? Anyway, and I started to draw to illustrate. So the idea was that I had to make a resume of a very complicated article and make it simple so people can understand. So, but if you take the text out, the drawing has to stay by itself. So have a double function, as illustration, but also as a drawing. And in time, you see, this is the beginning, a little, but then I become very more decided, more simple line, more direct. This is about the tabloidization of TV. They put the TV on you and you are naked. And this is about coalition, political coalition. Somebody have the tie, right? Well, this is the magazine. That's how it looks, 22. And this is how it looks after 23 years. I draw about my country every week. The last 23 years. This is the collection of every year. Every year we bound them in a book together. And I'm showing these drawings as a sculpture. I draw 1.5 meters for it. It's the longest project I ever did. Well, and this is one of my project who stays. This is specially made to resist. This is made in the National Technical Library in Prague, Czech Republic. And I made it because it's not a museum, but a library. This is the place of the knowledge. It's not of the place of the hierarchy. Who's the best? No, it's the place of the knowledge. And what also decided me to contribute, so this will stay forever, right? Forever. It will stay, was the fact that when the architect got his project approved, he immediately integrated before the building was made, artistic projects. So I made my project based on a plan. And then they built this, and then I went there, and 4 years later, it looks like this. So all my repertoire of drawings I've been rolling around the last 20 years are here. It's like a data bank. And this confront me with this situation. I'm drawing very schematic things. I do a rectangular, and that can be a museum, a painting, a Kunsthalle, a supermarket. I have to name it in order for you to understand what's that meaning. But imagine in our days, everything looks square. Telephones, flat screens, everything. There's no feature any longer. It's very hard to, Maybe Google will not exist in 10 years, right? So if I do a reference of that, what people will understand in 50 years about it? What Twitter will look like? Maybe we don't have phones. We will have a chip, right? Planted here. You just call your friend. No? But I'm Romanian, no? So I will have a second-hand one. So you'll recognize me by how I restart my chip. Yeah. So it took me 15 years to establish this practice, which I'm doing now. I got an invitation, and then I negotiate the situation, and then I go there and I build an exhibition. And this came out of a certain necessity and a certain context, but the context changed. So the ideological propaganda changed into the consumist one in my country, right? This is Romania. So queuing for food there is now replaced with what's left after you eat, and you don't care. You just don't care. You don't care, you have bananas all the time. All the time. Well, the places where human beings change history. This is an iconic place in Bucharest. It's like the Tiananmen Square for us, right? Well, it's the place for advertising. And the symbol of the devil, the symbol of dictatorship, is now the Romanian parliament, right? So it's the symbol of democracy, right? And when, this is not communist time, this is how artists respond to that at the time. They try to make a living, They painted the guy. And here is what they do today. It's the biggest show on earth. Every rock band I assimilate with freedom, every rock band from the West comes to collect this image. It's super cool. Right? Hey, AC/DC. And the most terrifying and ugly building on the planet, how they say today, because the architect just recently died, and they make an obituary in the Telegraph saying, the monument of totalitarian kitsch. So the monument of totalitarian kitsch, which is my parliament, conquered not only Bucharest as image, but the country and the fridge. And it will have a twin sister soon. Well, this is an island in the middle of the city. To build it, they destroy 25% or 20% of the capital. So they destroy lives. People seem to forget about them. And there's an empty field in the middle of the city. This is like the lead where you have this wall. Because the power love to have walls around. You don't have here at the Capitolium, right, in Washington. You can go there and smash your face on the wall, right? We have a wall around. So Roger promised us the wall will go. That's Pink Floyd. That was the show, the wall in front of the house. But the wall stay. And if you want to do a protest around, you need 5,000 people. 5,000 people. Well, the body of the women and the body of the men who changed history in my country are now used in advertising. And if you open the door of the club, these are the heroes who died for the club to exist. Good. And in the rest of the planet, we extract and we throw. We really throw. And as a response to that, we build walls. We are building walls to keep the shit out. 21st century, my friends. Anyways, this is the place I showed to the Istanbul Biennale in 2005. And this is how it looks today, a chic boutique. So, you remember my masterpiece? I sold it to the Aachen Ludwig Museum, and now it's installed and facing the supermarket lady of Dwayne Hansen. It's one of the masterpieces of hyperrealism. It's kind of nice. And you remember the tattoo? So I took it out 10 years later, made it in 1993, took it out in 2003. Like when I made it, it was like it cost me a beer. When I didn't make it, it cost the museum 3,000 euro. I also do it as a performance. So Romania's gone, and I become a full international artist, boying around from city to city and trying to understand the big picture, the humankind history, right? Well, and Halloween, you can scare your kids now. You can dress in Fannie Mac or Wells Fargo. This is what they say you have to do. You have to cut your budget. Well, how you can teach a homeless? Having too much is not the answer. Hope. But relax, we are all protected. I try to cover every aspect, including the arts, who made it is more important than what is in it. And, conceptual art is about ideas. It's not about the object. It's not about owning it. It's about creating ideas. Right? Well, ideas have to survive. That's the battle. That is the battle. Well, we are getting close to the protest area, so it will come soon. So my definition of being an artist changed from all this technology to fit in the picture and become one of the guys in the system to somebody who wants to have a say in the rest of society. I don't want to be caged again, but this time on a museum territory. So, people from Stuttgart 5 years ago, they occupied a space, they protest against some kind of building the city of Stuttgart did, and they say, Mr. Perjovschi, can we use some of your drawings? Yeah. So they used them in the Occupy camp, and it was one of the first experience I have as an artist communicating directly with somebody in trouble or in action. And then I tried to expand this territory. I'm active as an artist. This I expand on the t-shirt of some cultural managers which are running marathons, and every time they run marathon, they have some kind of activistic statement on the t-shirt. So the gallery is the t-shirt now. Then I slipped from the museum walls to the Facebook wall. And this is about the Occupy University phenomenon happened in Cluj and Bucharest in Romania. So what is a university? Is art? Is the walls or is the people? So these students who are like occupying their own amphitheater, demanding certain rights and a certain different behavior in the very classical Romanian universities, they like what I draw about it, so they download it and they put it around their protest amphitheater. And here I am doing one of the most fantastic exhibitions I can ever dream of. And then this is about another city in Romania. They are just cutting their traditional trees because the mayor have a vision. So if you cut the eyes from, it's a different city. So they asked me to do some logo about it. So they you know. Now I'm providing this. And then we end up here where it's a very actual moment with this demonstration against a gold mine in Romania. Maybe you're familiar. That's a Canadian company. They want to erase 4 mountains and leave us with the biggest lake full of cyanide in Europe for the rest of our lives. We are 20 billion euro, my friends, you're not joking. So the money is so huge. Then the government was almost to give an okay. And then people, your generation, went in the streets like that, amazingly. Because we are known as Romania as an apathic country. We don't do things. Maybe once in 100 years we'll do a revolution and kill our dictator. But in the rest, we just survive somehow. So this was a major shock in the Romanian society. Educated, young, very skilled in networking people, and very creative in their appearance. So they went to the streets. Actually, the resistance towards this project is 14 years old. While I did my career, somebody there in the mountains fought. Right? This was just a moment that this energy came on view. So this is the sign, the red and green leaf. So the green is the mountain, then the red will be the lake with poison. And this go all over the planet, from Woodstock to Ibiza and to the soccer field. Yeah, fantastic. Oops. In the air, under the sea, on the mountains, and with Woody. And with me. So I made comments about Roșia Montana is the name, so saving Roșia may also mean saving RO, Romania. So what kind of future do we want for that country? Do we want somebody to get rich and we get poisoned in the process? Or do we want a country, you know, with some mountains? Well, people left these drawings, some of them print them out and went to demonstrate with. Or they redo them. Well, I was pretty amazed. That's London. That's Paris. So, we have a history of uprisal. Every time somebody goes to a street, the power could not cope. They don't understand what's going on, so they try to blame it. They try to annihilate the critic, right? We are now at this chapter. Everybody down. For the non-Romanian speaker, I'm very sorry, but this is like Romania without the mountains. So if you just cut the tops, then you have the name of, relative name of the country. Yeah. Or Russia is the name of this subject, so you can have an A to Z democracy lesson. That's what democracy is. So should I, as a government, decide just like that to change somebody's lifestyle? Well, you know, there are people there, they don't want to sell their land. They don't want the money. So what do you do? Well, this is what people in the street looks, and this is the government. With the smell of the money. And this is you with the mountain, and this is your nephew. And it's not about the mountain, it's about in general, how you live, what are, you know. I'm not like advocating regressive and forget progress or whatever. But we are like super smart, we are 21st century, we could do this better. If you have a goal in life, you escape rain. Good. So that in Romania will be, they got, we not. But it's a play of word about they have the gold, we were left with the cyanide. And then I moved this to a wall. which I do in Sibiu, in my hometown, near the theater. And I also host other people, statements. It's called the Horizontal Newspaper. It's a big wall in the public space in the hometown of Sibiu, where I'm commenting the reality and what's going on in the world and in the country. And I also host statements from other people. This is the wall at the beginning. That's the National Theater. So it's right in your face. I filled it with comments, general comments. This is about Europe, you know. We have the Germany in the center. Angela Merkel, psycho. It's not me. It's a young guy, more courageous than me. It's about the local and global, being inside Europe, opening up. That's about the Turkish section, where they had this uprisal in Istanbul. And they had these terrible fights. Same like in Romania. And this is about Milano, another situation. Dialogue. That's what's not happening between the political power and the people. This is about, you know, telecommunication. They give you 3 minutes. You're full of 3 minutes, but they are all taped. This is about the center. The Sibiu is the only place on the planet where we are at the margin. It's good. It's called Marginimea Sibiu. It's a very famous villages. And this is a classic graffiti somebody did 10 years ago in Bucharest. It's Eminem. That's Eminescu. That's the Romanian icon poet manipulated as being a rap star. And this is about the citizenship, citizen, the citizen of the city. So that's the most important in a city. Not the mayor, which is that, or the board of the mayor. Right? That's another sense of graffiti, or another artist. So you put this. Yeah. Good. Now we are ending it in 3 minutes. So this is my drawing when I was like 6 years old. I was pretty good, huh? Expressive, very nice, right? Well, this is me when I graduated the Academy of Art. I was pretty boring, like very banal, like everybody else. So how come? Whatever happened between this and this? So rules and society and school happened. And I always had this talent to make humoristic stuff. But all the system, the educational system in my country at the time was not able to identify it as an asset. And me neither. So I lost a lot of time. I lost a lot of time to find it back. 10 years after I graduate, I start to, 10 years. So this is a work I did as a surprise to my wife. We are in 1988, in full communist time. You could not exhibit in galleries because there are 3 committees of censorship, stupid guys. So I packed my flat with white paper. Luckily it was a small flat. And make a surprise, my wife just got students to the Art Academy in Bucharest, and this was her first holiday home. So that was a big surprise. I didn't know that's contemporary art or art history or whatever. I just wanted to make a surprise of my wife, and it functioned. So now I want to make a surprise for you. That's what I do in my exhibitions. And it's all a question of context. So when I was limited and I didn't know the world and I could not communicate, so the universe was between me and her. That was it. So it's about love between us. Now I deal with love at a political level and global one. So the kamikaze guy, if he asked the burqa lady for a date, right? So this is a criticism of the fundamentalism in that side. Let's see the other part now. So this is a Ku Klux Klan guy asking the burqa lady. His problem is that she's not black, right? Good. So now you'll have a cultural understanding of the situation. Maybe it's all about culture. Good. Do you remember this? Constantin Brancusi, the best artist. This is not Constantin Brancusi. This is a copy they made in China. To illustrate, to decorate one of the flats apartment. So, let's end on a positive note. What I wanted to say with the other image is that you can establish a superstar, but the life will use it in a different way. So you have to be prepared for a different kind of understanding of what you are thinking about, or how you are people, Well, this is an iconic image of the art of the 20th century. You have the grandfather of contemporary art, Marcel Duchamp. You have Constantin Brancusi, who revolutionized modern sculpture, and you have Tristan Tzara, the one who was part of one of the extraordinary movements called Dadaism. These two guys come from the territory I'm also born. So there's nothing wrong with that. It's just the way we establish, it's just the way we use the potential. It's everywhere the same. Every country is the most beautiful country on the planet. Every culture is so interesting. There are artists and creativity all over the place. So it's up to us what kind of society we establish in order for us to really access this enormous richness. Thank you.
So you said when you were 6, you showed your drawing from when you were 6, and then you said school happened, systems happened, and you never realized that was an asset?
Yeah.
What happened? Was there a specific thing where you're like, wait a minute, this is actually something I should work on, and this is an asset, and I should push
Yeah,
this?
but it didn't came so easy. It came in time. I told you that I need 10 years to somehow realize this. Like, first of all, the way I draw now, you saw on the walls, is still not perceived in the school I made as art. They have to live with the idea that I'm famous. So that will make them having some question. Now it's more popular in Romania also because we never have a cartoon culture or comics. This is here. We never have it. It was totally controlled. The public space in Romania, you could not express, right? So now it might look more familiar. But at the time, no, when I start to do that, it's like, so listen, as I showed to you, when the country opened and I went out and I see whatever happened, I had to find a voice, how to talk with you here. Right? If I come with my own still life, you're not interested in this. Or maybe, but So I had to find a voice, a tone, something which will make you interested in, and something who make me happy to talk it. So it took years. I start to work more with graphic views, more quick answer, and then I was active in the media doing illustration drawings here, and then in the art doing something separate. And I got to know an extraordinary specialist in contemporary art called Christine Stiles from Duke University. She was visiting Romania several years, and at a certain moment she said, "Hey, Dan, but this is fantastic what you do at the newspaper. This is art in public space." I have no idea. So then I realized this is a potential, but late, 1997. And then I tried to start to work with these drawings with the newspaper, with the page, and then in the process I forgot the page and I just went with the drawing. So you can imagine all this. My installation is just I come here and I start to, you give me this space and the fee, and I start to draw, put stuff, and they're coming from what's going on, what Mr. Obama happened, whatever, these sources. So in a way, all my drawings today, you see a drawing, every of the drawing have a text around, but the text is not there. It's gone. I read it. No. So it took me time to realize this is a possibility with the humor, and this kind of line very simple. It was not so simple at the beginning. I tried to be artist, but then it's simplified. Now people come and say, but this my nephew can do, and I say yes. Precisely. You not, your nephew. So it's about tricking a little bit the kind of expression we all had. You knew to draw when you were 3 or 4 or 5. And you lost it when you go to the kindergarten, because they teach you how to draw. Right? And imagine what is happening right now. Everybody, Instagram, people are communicating through image, but do they learn how to? Do somebody know what does it mean to put the 20th cat on Facebook? What does it say about you? Or how does it say, every image, every composition you may say something about how you think, But do we learn that? So this is what I try to do, to give you the feeling in my exhibition. This is not so, contemporary art is complicated. Some, but not all of it. So I try to make the bridge more, and keep the humor. That's very complicated. Yes?
Yeah, exactly on that, because you said the school where you learn art, they still don't consider you an artist.
No, this...
Is there any place in Romania where you can learn something different? And is there a way that...
Now?
Yes, so are there alternative ways of not having them to unlearn all of these things?
Listen, in my case, right? I have some colleagues at the high school. I made the High School of Art in Sibiu. It was a bad one. That's the reality. Bad for me. My colleagues, which are German origin, they all emigrated in Germany. And because they know to draw, they make a living out of that. For them was good. I mean, I was not happy to make a living. I wanted to do something, to change the way you think. I needed more. I need a different school. I never find it. Now there are 3 major art academies in Romania. And in each of them, you can find a part which is more progressive. And depending sometimes of the teacher or something, the structure is still very conservative. But listen, I've been in the world all over the places. I'm coming here from a workshop made in Finland and one in Toulouse in France, where we love to lose. So, and everywhere you may find very conservative thinking and or liberal. So it's not only Romania, it's everywhere. I teach one semester at Duke University. Ladies and gentlemen, 15 years ago was $50,000 a year. And at the fine arts department, they were not good. Theory, perfect. Fine arts, catastrophic. $20 worth of knowledge. So that can happen everywhere. It's not here, it's not there, right? Now, there are, in my opinion, I don't teach. I cannot have this responsibility. This is a very, very tough job. In art, imagine that you have to teach somebody to be against you. Right? You cannot teach somebody to copy you. You are already there, right? So that's very complicated. And you teach a territory who does not give any sureness. It's art. Tomorrow, I'm in demand today. You ask me to come. Maybe in 5 years somebody else will be cool, right? How can I make you still interested in me now that you see this? Right? So it's very complicated territory. So how can you teach that? You need very much experience. So this is what in Europe is very good. They have this Erasmus stuff, so they can exchange one semester from one city, from one country to another country. So you can have a different perspective, and that for the artist is essential. You have to have a look from outside of yourself, of your culture, of your context. When you are there, you didn't realize there's something wrong. So you have to see it, Or maybe it's not wrong, it's just different. So maybe, so, I mean, if I compare with the time I was, now it's much better, of course, but in the same time, because this is the times we are living, you saw that information board with this exhibition I show you, like who hit us, right? So that happens with everybody now with the internet. In a way, I admire all these people with who had time to go on the streets or something, so to have a civic sense, because your life is complicated, right? And it looks easy, but it's not. In a way, for me, it was easier because I knew the enemies. We joke with my wife, we said now we are in a dissident program, but dizzy from dizzy. Because you don't exactly know who are the bad guys now, you cannot position yourself. So, I do prefer these times, but they are complicated also. Just think about being an artist in New York, only one section of Manhattan, Chelsea, there are 350 galleries. So imagine the competition you have in order to establish yourself. Now when I was in Romania, I was not alone, but there was like, I don't know, maximum 100 people around. And when they wanted to have an artist from Romania or two artists from Bulgaria, so if you go to the spot, you got lucky, right? But here, who cares about an artist from, I don't know, Idaho, right? If you come from Sofia, but Idaho, So sometimes it's much tough here than there. So I'm not complaining. I just try to tell you that we should learn to use the context we have. And sometimes it's brutal against you, but maybe you can, it's like Aikido, you can, use that force. And, I got really lucky, and I worked very hard, but I got lucky. I had this, it was this interest when the Berlin Wall fell. There was an interest towards what's there after the wall, right? So I get into that gaze. So I was lucky to be seen. Now people in my country, they are there, they are very talented, but who see them? Who see them? Now like China is much more cool, right? Or South Asia, and it's true. It's really true. It is interesting. So you had your moment. If you're not there, it's very hard. You have to fight 3 times more to get back in the spot. And I don't want to leave you with the impression this is just a box competition or something. No. But as artists, as a creative somebody, you need certain context to expose your ideas. And we never had this institution around us, and we had to invent them. This was another lesson and I can tell you this, but you can experiment even if you are not an artist. If you go out in the shop and buy all the colors, a set, and they give you, 14 nuances, right? And you go lost, you don't know what to use. So go and buy 3 colors, and then you don't have the money for the 42 nuances, you have just for 3. So you have to be much more inventive in combining them. That's the simple rule you can have. When I do research for the project, I don't read all the newspapers. If you take one in the morning, if you take all the newspapers I read in the morning, you die after the 3rd. You cannot get all the news in. So I'm just using bits of information. You tell me something, you ask me something, then I can, I read a little like a title, and that's enough. I cannot do research per se. So I learn, but this is my experience, to use minimum sources and minimum means. My wish to be alone to draw is because it was a over-human bureaucracy. I could not beat it. I didn't want to have this emotion, my work arrived or not in time for the exhibition. I didn't want to ask somebody for budget. But this is in my case. In other cases it's different. Maybe another Romanian artist will come here, will show you a different version of the things. Well, there's not one America, there's not one Romania, no? There's several.